Importance of maintaining a grid. So working on a project in Colorado, house, 10,000 square feet. And what we should have started with was a grid. I mean, by a grid could be a rectangular grid, a radial grid. That you ultimately, when you build the thing, got your people out there and they snap their lines. It's just like, how the hell do you build this? So you start it, you lay out your grid, you got your template. The thing is the grid was never maintained, or the grid just sort of came after the fact once we sort of organized the program and everything. The grid didn't exist until it had to. And right now the client also has the model. They're 3D modeling it themselves, which is great, but also sucks. And they're modeling it down to the inch, and they don't have a grid line. They have their spaces set, but their tolerances are down to 1/8 of an inch. Things are off. Everything is off. So my attempt is to abide it to some kind of grid and try to do it to whole numbers, rounding 8 inches to a foot. And all that did was create more square footage. And we're maximizing it to, let's say it's around like 11,000 something, but let's say the maximum is 10,000 square feet. They want exactly 10,000 square feet. They're maximizing this house, maximizing the space. So when you round things, unless you're rounding down, if you round down, they complain, and where does the space go? But if you round up, they're like, you have too much space, what's going on? So the grid has sort of become inches, and it's important to simplify the grid to keep it right. When you build it, it's a lot easier to align like 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, or 5, 10, multiples. It's divisible by something. So it's easier to build, it's easier to understand. The concept is a lot more clear when there's a grid that sort of backs it, right? The concept becomes more clear when you have a steady grid, and then you have a moment of like expression or liberation or something. The tension and release becomes a lot more transparent, and thus the concept holds steady. But when you have a grid that abides by the inch, it goes haywire. And it's extremely frustrating building this, or not building it, but designing it in Rhino, because you are snapping to inches, and you just wish that you had, your cardinal grid lines, your cardinal control lines to build a design off of, to tell a story off of. I think this has like a lot of parallels too, and the importance of maintaining concept through grid. It's your diagram for everything. But I think that there's some sort of, it's sort of like this trellis-plant relationship. In order for the plant to sort of expand itself and grow, you have to have like a steady sound trellis. Same thing with the grid. It makes me think of these sculptures behind me. It's do they ride by a grid? Not so much. Do they benefit from some sort of grid? Probably. But then the grid can sort of be interpreted, at least in this context, in another way. You sort of have like a grid of concept. A grid, in my case, I guess, my subconscious, and that's something that I'm sort of trying to delineate the ingredients of that, right? Just like religion, family, dreams, a lot of like monstresses, a lot of like Catholic, like church, not memorabilia, but paraphernalia. And I guess personal memorabilia, and that's where all the icons come in. My personal travels with into Catholic or Christian centered cities where there's tons of cathedrals and crosses. There's crosses everywhere, but so the grid can be interpreted in different ways. But in architecture, like, you have to, since you're building the damn thing, I don't know, it's a distinction between like art and architecture. Like, I'm an artist, I can sort of get away with like a different thing. The greatest concept, but in architecture, when you have to build the thing, and when there's like a finances, money. There's sort of I don't know. A grid is a good form. It's a good common ground. It's a good basis, foundation for communication, for concepts, for everything. Otherwise, I mean, I don't know. The projects that don't have grids that are maybe like completely organic, they just have a different like growth. I've just been thinking about the grid a lot. I also just did a drawing on paper at Sharpie, and the fumes are killing. You see a lot better than nailing these fumes. All that zip kicker, super glue stuff. Nail it and go fine, but now it's like I nail it for a little bit. It feels pretty fucking shitty. Pretty shitty. But grids, maintain the grids, simplify, maintain, communicate it, hold it steady. It should be stubborn. Any break in the grid should be extremely deliberate, communicated, and when you break it, it makes sense, right? And I think that Morses did this really well, because you have like this somewhat like regular like floor plan or stack, right? An elevation or in section, and then you have this moment, this break, this like gesture that stands out so much and is like easily decipherable. The concept is there because it's on its canvas of grid, it's on its canvas of regularity, you know. And I guess that's sort of what these sculptures bring, is it's sort of like it's a lot of environment, but